Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, May 11th, 2026, and the time is 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. There's not a whole lot to talk about at the beginning of this week, but as we move into the middle to end of this week, it looks like things are going to get pretty active. But notice as we look at today, there's not too much going on. As we move over to the day one convective outlook here, notice we have a couple of general thunderstorm risks across the northern United States, as well as a few across the southern United States. Notice there is a marginal risk across portions of Louisiana into Mississippi, and then over into the East Coast over here, as well as eastern Florida. Notice we also have that marginal risk. Notice there is this 2% tornado risk here across South Carolina today. I don't think this is really going to amount to much, but the risk is there. Notice that there is a wind risk today across both portions of the marginal region, and then this hail risk here. As we move into day 2 or 5/12/2026, notice we have more of an expansive marginal risk here across kind of from Wisconsin, Indiana down through far southeastern Kansas here. If you live in central Missouri or even central Illinois, just have ways to get watches and warnings tomorrow, as it looks like it could be a pretty active day. As far as tornado probabilities go for tomorrow, notice we only have a 2% tornado risk, but the risk is there across portions of eastern Kansas into extreme western Missouri tomorrow. This should not amount to a whole lot, but I do think the primary risks tomorrow are going to be hail and damaging winds, and you can kind of see that here, where that hail risk kind of follows that marginal risk. And then as we move over to the wind risk, notice that looks to be the main concern as far as severe weather probabilities for tomorrow. And then as we move into Wednesday or day 3, 5/13/2026, notice we have another large general thunderstorm risk across the entire central United States, as well as one across the eastern side of the United States. We also have another marginal risk here across Ohio into kind of Pennsylvania, as well as West Virginia for day 3. This does not look like it's going to be another significant day of severe weather. However, the risk is there again. But then our attention is going to turn to day 6 or Saturday, where the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a 15% severe weather probability, which is equivalent to a day 6 slight risk on the severe weather probability scale. The reason this is concerning is the SPC has confidence this far out that we are going to see severe weather moving into this weekend, and I'm also kind of thinking that we're going to move into a pretty active period of severe weather as early as probably Friday, moving into all of next week. It looks like things are going to remain pretty active, and you can see that as we move over to the CSU MLP guidance here. Notice we have severe weather probabilities almost every single day here. And notice Friday it is showing severe weather potential here across Illinois into Missouri, and then across the entire central United States. And then as as we move forward, we'll have better confidence in this. But notice even Saturday, the CSU is picking up on a severe weather risk. And then as we move into, once again, early next week, it looks like things are going to remain active. And as we move over to the GFS model here, this is right now, not too much going on. Notice we do have thunderstorm activity across the northern United States, as well as the East Coast and portions of southern United States here. As we move forward here, notice as we this low pressure system here kind of drops off to the south, with a cold front kind of sagging behind it, and this will bring our severe weather risk tomorrow across portions of Illinois, Missouri, and into Indiana. And notice it kind of has storms firing overnight between Tuesday and Wednesday, which would honestly decrease our severe weather threat, which is only a marginal risk anyways tomorrow. But as we continue to move forward here, as we get into Friday, notice it has quite a bit of storms ongoing across Mississippi, the Mississippi Valley, into the Great Lakes region. And as we go back over to the CSU model, let's remember that CSU is picking up on severe weather probabilities coming out of the storm system for Friday. So we will have storms on Friday. The question is, will they be severe or not? And as we continue to move forward here into Saturday, Saturday is the big day to watch. Notice how tight these isobars here across Kansas into Oklahoma and into Texas. Notice we have this 991 millibar low pressure system here, kind of over Colorado. And then as we move over to the Cape values, notice that the Cape values are pretty significant for Saturday. So we have the strong low pressure system for lift. We have the Cape is there. And then as we move over to moisture, notice that the moisture is rather significant. We have moisture dew points into the 70s and to the mid 60s here as far north as southern Iowa. So we have a pretty large or even expansive warm sector for the storm system that is going to move across the central United States on day 6 or Saturday, and that is why the Storm Prediction Center put out that slight risk. But as we continue to move forward here, notice that the GFS model is showing things remaining pretty active here. Early next week, it's got storms across the entire central United States into the Great Lakes region. We could have more severe weather chances almost every day next week, really. And notice that it continues to show these low pressure systems marching across the central United States. And as we move over, I want to take a look at the European model and just kind of get an idea what the Euro is showing. And this is right now, once again, notice it does have the storms ongoing across the northern United States, and then once again across the East Coast and portions of the southern United States. Moving forward here, notice it does have that low pressure system around moving in tomorrow. Notice it does have storms firing a little bit earlier than the GFS did for tomorrow evening system across Illinois, Missouri, and to Kansas. And this could have a better severe weather chance across that region. The later the storms fire, the less energy they're going to have. But as we move into the end of this week, here's what we're looking at. Notice it does also show that storm system moving in on Friday. However, it does not show the thunderstorm development that the GFS is picking up on, and that is very interesting. That is just something we're going to have to watch on Friday. Friday's kind of up in the air right now, but notice Saturday across the board here, the Euro and the GFS are both in relatively good agreement as far as having a rather large warm sector, and it does show pretty substantial thunderstorm development across the warm front. And then back here into Oklahoma, and Kansas, and Texas here, let's kind of look at the dew points here. Notice that, yeah, look at that warm sector. That's a pretty large warm sector. One concern that I may have for the storm system on Saturday is the dew point spread. You know, if we're going to have temperatures down here into the 80s, but the dew points are going to be struggling to make it past the mid 60s here, that's obviously going to be a concern as far as that goes on Saturday. But regardless, the GFS and Euro are in pretty good agreement that we are going to have severe weather on day 6 or Saturday, which is why the Storm Prediction Center did go ahead and put out that day 6 slight risk across this region. As we continue to move forward here, notice it does have the low pressure system in kind of the same spot that the GFS had it over here. GFS was a little bit further back. GFS could have the system a little bit slower, moving in a little bit later. But that's basically what we're looking at. The GFS and Euro model are both in pretty good agreement here, with a large warm sector across the central United States here. That's basically all I got. Thank you guys for watching. As always, have multiple ways to get watches and warnings as we move into the end of this week or even into next week. I will have multiple videos probably every day this week, as opposed to last week where there was not too much going on. but obviously have multiple ways to get watches and warnings. Stay tuned to your local news stations, your local National Weather Service Facebook page, Twitter pages, and even here on YouTube have multiple ways to stay weather aware as we continue to move into a more active period. So